Battle of Hue, Vietnam. This video is a then and now comparison of the Battle of Hue. We have done this in a chronological time order of the battle. You will see many of the major battle areas, how they look now, compared to how those same places looked in 1968. Tet is the Vietnamese New Year holiday, and is a traditional celebration of peace throughout the country. The people have around 4 days holiday when businesses close completely. During Tet in 1968, the North Vietnamese forces launched a massive assault throughout South Vietnam. It was timed to coincide with the festive Tet holiday. Some 80,000 soldiers of the North Vietnamese together with the Viet Cong troops attacked 36 of the 44 provincial capitals. The Americans and South Vietnamese forces were caught off guard, but fought back strongly. Hue was the old imperial and spiritual capital of Vietnam. At the heart of the city, on the north bank of the Perfume River, is the 10-kilometer square walled Citadel, housing the old city and the Imperial Palace. On the night of January 30, 1968. During the Tet celebrations, all of the city was captured by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces, except for the South Vietnamese RVN garrison, in the northeast corner of the Citadel, and the U.S. Mack V compound on the south bank. While the battle raged around the Mack V compound, calls for help were made to the Marine base at Phu Bai, located 14 kilometers to the south. Today, Phu Bai is Hue's domestic and international airport. In 1968, Phu Bai was a large sprawling Marine base. The following video is taken along the highway, going south, past the end of the runway, and later the airport control tower. This whole area, on both sides of the highway, was the Marine base. Some of the buildings obviously remain, but they are hard to spot as they have been integrated into their current use. The Mack V compound, located on the south side of Hue, was attacked in the early hours of 31st of January 1968. Many casualties were sustained during the attack. The first was Marine Specialist Frank Dosema, who was manning the machine gun in the Mack V compound tower. The first Marines to be sent to relieve the situation at Mack V was Captain Gordon Batchelor's Alpha 11. His convoy left Phu Bai at 8:30 a.m. and proceeded north along Highway 1. At the time there was a heavy fog in the air. Batchelor's convoy proceeded until they were about 3 kilometers south of the Mack V compound. Just past a small bridge across a creek, they come across 5 American M48 tanks. The M48s happened to be in transit, being transferred to the north of Hue. Nearby, there was the wreckage of a single South Vietnamese M41 tank. A gruesome burnt body hung from the hatch. This video was taken on the 17th of February 1968. This shows Marines traveling along Highway 1, towards Hue. This movie was taken 18 days after the action we're talking about here, but the vehicles are going along the exact same journey, down Highway 1, as Bachelor's convoy. The Causeway Bridge was being repaired. Bachelor's reaction force, including the tanks, drove further north along Highway 1. His men were on foot, scouting through buildings on either side of the road. On the right-hand side of the road was Sergeant Freddy Gonzalez, who would later be awarded the Medal of Honor for his gallantry here, and later during the Battle of Way. It was in this section that the red arrow covers, on the left-hand side of the highway, that Sergeant Godfrey was shot in the right leg. Bachelor's convoy continued on towards the intersection of a provincial road, where Highway 1 takes a hard right. Just after the intersection, Bachelor decided the convoy would need to move faster. He ordered his men back on the trucks and tanks. He took a position on the rear of the first tank, together with his radio men and corpsmen. Not long after leaving the intersection, the convoy was struck by a volley of B-40 RPGs. Bachelor's tank was hit, killing the corpsman and mortally wounding a radio man. Captain Bachelor was untouched. The convoy plunged on over the still-standing Chu Bridge. This bridge would later be destroyed by Viet Cong. Taken in mid-February 1968, the film shows trucks approaching Chu Bridge, which by this time had been destroyed. Timber poles were being prepared for the new bridge. Trucks then had to detour over a pontoon. In an area which has changed dramatically since 1968, the market over the Chu Bridge still remains. After the RPG attack, the convoy run the 600 meters up Highway 1, over Chu Bridge, without stopping, then onto an open intersection. The men then dismounted from the trucks. Captain Bachelor then organized movement of casualties. Around the intersection, there were a number of South Vietnamese wrecked M41 tanks and one personnel carrier. Batchelor radioed his battalion commander Lieutenant Colonel Mark Gravel, who was still at Phu Bay Marine Base. Gravel told Batchelor that he was coming forward to the Mack V compound and would see him soon. Ahead was a raised causeway, with cane fields or rice paddies either side. Batchelor followed behind the lead tank, while most of his men walked up the right hand of the causeway where the meter-high berm afforded some cover from the continuing small arms fire. The causeway is near unrecognizable compared to 1968. The imposing Indochine Palace Hotel has been built midway along the causeway. Batchelor and the tanks had advanced well down the kilometer-long causeway when a soldier to his rear was shot in the leg. Batchelor stepped out from behind the protection of the tank, grabbing the man by his flak jacket. At that moment Batchelor was hit in both legs and his right forearm. The impact of the bullets threw him across the roadway and he became entangled in a coil of wire. A short time later, he handed command to Gunnery Sergeant Canley.
Next thing I knew, I was laying face up and obviously had been hit. I just assumed I was going to bleed to death. I knew that nobody could get me out. And I started to run through all the prayers I knew.
Right in front of us was a massive causeway, a couple of 100 yards long. Bigger ice patties on both sides of the causeway. We got about halfway across, and the front of the column got hit pretty hard. Everyone got down and started returning fire at any target they could find. We started moving up the ditch along the side of the causeway to get to our platoon sergeant, Sergeant Gonzalez. And Gonzalez said, on three, we charge. Count to three, and up we went. It was the worst mud you can imagine trying to run in. It just sucked you in. Your heart is pounding. You know, you can feel the veins in your neck bulging out, and you're breathing heavy. I may have gotten 30 feet and I went down. I got up, went down again. I must have fallen 5, 6, 7 times. I finally got to the end of the rice paddy. One of our Marines got hit. He was laying there on his back. He was dead.
One hour later, Lieutenant Colonel Gravel and the 160 men of Golf Company 25, under the command of Captain Chuck Meadows, arrived into the intersection before the causeway. Lieutenant Colonel Gravel continued in his jeep at the head of the column, but then come under the same machine gun fire as Captain Batchelor's convoy. He progressed up the causeway on foot with the Marines of Golf 25. The further he went, the more casualties he discovered from the earlier Alpha 11 battle, including Captain Gordon Batchelor. At this point near the end of the causeway, some of the forward men of Golf 25 joined the battle. Elements of both units forged ahead to Mack V through the big intersection. There were many casualties at the end of the causeway, especially near the police compound. The camera is now panning down Highway 1 towards the Mack V compound. This wide-angle lens video is panning back towards the end of the causeway. We are standing beside Highway 1. When the Marines and tanks were seen coming up Highway 1, cheering and shouting could be heard from the soldiers at Mack V. The soldiers were elated that the siege had been broken. After arriving at Mack V, trucks were sent back down to the causeway to pick up casualties. The last person on the causeway that day was Lieutenant Colonel Mark Gravel, who walked the rest of the way with his driver. Along the way, he was joined by Gunny Canley. They were the last Marines to arrive at Mack V compound from the causeway. From the time when Bachelor's convoy come across the tanks, to their arrival at Mack V, the fight had taken an incredible 4 hours. In this video you see that the travel time over the same road today is around 4 minutes. To the left-hand side of the road was where Sergeant Freddy Gonzalez and Canley fearlessly attacked a machine gun bunker. Some of the heaviest fighting was in this area.
Yeah, just here.